Hi, Johnny. I'm working to try and get all the tech stuff going as usual. Go ahead and put your, if you can hear it, yeah, go ahead and put your county in the chat, or you can speak on the mic as well. What else do I need to do?
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, other than tech stuff, not exactly working as well as I would, like for it to, but we're getting there. I have one camera working, I only have one camera, but the screen sharing capabilities and things are not wanting to share cameras.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Now I'm on Rumble, so and you're seeing me on Telegram, right?
Yeah.
You're seeing me on Telegram because I'm screen sharing.
Okay.
That's why you're seeing. Okay, so I'm screen sharing the desktop. It's coming through Rumble. I know you probably don't really care about all this stuff, but let's see. Okay, so I'm not really sure about free conference call, but you're obviously screen sharing, seeing me. I can count the camera through Rumble. Rumble is streaming through, of course, Rumble, YouTube, Odyssey, something else. I can't remember. All the other stuff it's linked to should be running through as well. And I discovered that if I make sure and put the right date in, it will create the info on YouTube by creating this whole setup through Rumble Studios. Rumble Studio seems to be far better than what I've experienced with YouTube's studio process. So just some little feedback. All right. So I guess we can go ahead and get things going. Let me put this here so it's not so much of just seeing me. Let's see. Maybe that minimum gives you a little bit. I don't know why that. Oh, because I'm not screen sharing here too. I don't want that. I want this. Okay. Okay. So then okay. So I'm down here. All right. I'm sorry. This is crazy. Okay. All right. So we should be good in Rumble and screen share. Do you see me in a little picture in the bottom?
No, ma'am.
You don't see me at all now, do you? Because I've made this bigger. Let's see. Do you see me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. All right. So let's go ahead. Thank you so much for helping me to be able to see on that side. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. All right. So I want to welcome you all. It is Monday, April the 8th, 2024. Was it Eclipse Day for you or Apocalypse Day for you? I'm hoping it was Eclipse Day and that you were able to enjoy time with your family and remember all the things that you're grateful for. And most importantly, to have some time to be able to connect and get closer to God. And that is our primary goal, is remembering why we're here and who we serve. So we'll go ahead. This is the Indiana Assembly, unincorporated. The Jural and Militia assemblies are in session. I am Christine Van Pelt, State Coordinator on Gibson County. And we'll go ahead and take a moment to honor our Creator. All right. We want to remember that in 2 Corinthians 6, verse 7, by the word of truth, by the power of God, by the armor of righteousness on the right hand and on the left. So it's a reminder that the word is our truth. We have to walk in our truth, right? If we're not telling truths and we're not accepting truths, are we walking in God? Then there's Ephesians 6, 11 through 11 and 12. Put on the whole armor of God that ye may be able to stand against the assaults of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against worldly governors, the princes of darkness of this world, and against spiritual wickedness which are in high places. So don't forget that. And we have to remember that putting on our armor of God also includes knowing who we are, where we stand, how we carry ourselves, right? All right. Here in the presentation after the call, in all the streaming descriptions, it has one main link that once the call is over and I can update what counties were on the call, that's going to be the location to go to check it out. And it also has previous ones that, since we've been doing it on Rumble, so you'll be able to find it there once it's done. All right. So again, here's the agenda. These are linked so that you can be able to go straight to wherever it is you want, but it is valuable information that is throughout. So we'll go ahead and get things going. This is something that you will need to be familiar with. There is no getting around it. It is something that we have to make sure that we're clear. If you're uncomfortable answering the question, then if you can't just immediately say no, but you have a problem and you feel uncomfortable with it, you have to ask yourself why. Given the nature of what was put in that, into what's the de facto in there, we've got to be serious at this point, right? And we know that they are nothing but liars. They're in the business of lying. That's all they know how to do is lie. They've told us that straight up. And they can only do business with others that lie. That's not us here. So let's go ahead with this. This meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misrepresentation, and posting inflammatory rhetoric in public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflict and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance at today's meeting that is a member of any law enforcement agency or public agency of the federal, state, county, city, or township agency present? If there's any response, you can put it in the comment in your chat. It's not that you have to leave the call. It's just that you need to let us know up front, because that is being sneaky, to not at least let us know. And I'm not hearing and seeing them. Hearing and all right. Okay. So is there any response to the Bivens decision for the second time? Hearing and seeing none. Is there any response to the Bivens decision for the third time? Okay. Further, whose false pretenses is working for any foreign government, including the territorial United States or municipal United States, anyone who is being paid or coerced to be here, must fully disclose their presence and purpose now, or leave the call. Are you now, or have you ever received money or personal support of any kind from the intelligence community? That too, you would be able to comment in the chat. And here is the source referencing this: Bivens versus 6 unknown agents, 43 U.S. 388, 1971. Here are reminders that we have the right to peacefully assemble time flag. And we have a disclaimer. Anna has put it out for the assemblies to put a disclaimer out. We are engaged in the practice of self-government. Everyone here is volunteering their precious time and skill. Each one is an American with rights and prerogatives equal to your own. They're doing this work out of mutual necessity to restore the lawful American government. Demands for services, temper tantrums, and misplaced anger are inappropriate. This country does not belong to its government. This country belongs to the people who live here, and you are one of them. All right, let me make sure I did put up that reconference call is on the radio. Hold on. Sharing their, yeah, okay, so good. It's, oh, yeah. All right. We want to remind you that nationality is a birthright, while assembly membership is a choice. While we cannot deprive people of their birthright, we can and must throw disruptive people out of meetings and refuse to let them interfere with getting the work done. Participation in assemblies is predicated on being polite and productive members of the community, and that means productive members. That means showing up. That means actually committing to do something in support, and then following through and actually bringing that support forward and making it happen. Troublemakers and anarchists and the me group need to be disciplined, educated, and if need be, shown the door. The assemblies are business organizations engaged in very serious and important business. We have to set the tone for new members and establish the group values so that the group as a whole disciplines people to be polite, logical, businesslike, and mature. The moment anyone starts acting like a 7th grader and gossiping and being paranoid, it's up to the whole group to let that person know that the behavior pattern is not appropriate, not productive, not appreciated, and won't be tolerated. Shun gossip and fear-mongering, and it will disappear. Because as long as we're all being truthful and we're all acting in peace, what is your worry? Why are you afraid? Either your armor is on or not. If your armor's not on and you're just all out there, then you really belong in a municipal assembly, because they're ones that will hold your hand through everything. They're the cradle to grave process, but you won't be able to claim your you can claim your status, but you're not going to be able to claim your inheritance and really work with that, because it's not going to come through to you, because you're preferring to be a municipal and rather than a American walking on the land. All right, so we'll go ahead again. This is the 8th of April. I am Christine Van Pelt, State Coordinator on Gibson County. Hopefully later, but it is understandable. We have the Peacekeeping Task Force Executive Director, who is also the Area 4 Postal Chief. We are part of Postal Area 4, which is Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, and Kentucky. And that is because we all share the 4 starting in our zip code, in the 5-digit zip code for the postal code. We have postal codes. The U.S. has zip codes. So then the postal code, it starts with 4. And we're Postal Area 4, and Joe is also our Postal Area Chief. He has done his best to dedicate as many assembly calls that he can come for us, in addition to all of his other duties, so that he can be able to be available to answer questions that are how the Peacekeeping Task Force integrates within the assembly on the various parts of the assembly, as well as he brings forth information from the federation level as well to be able to support us. So, but again, he does have a full-time job that he has to do to support his family, and has a family as well as Peacekeeping Task Force. So, it is possible he may not be able to make it, and we do wish him well. We don't know if he was traveling today, if he was anywhere in the eclipse and dealing with traffic or things like that. So, all right. So just checking. Okay. So again, I'm Christine on Gibson County, and Johnny, what county are you on again, dear? Hendricks, right on. All right. I will be making sure I get you in there for the agenda for when it goes on the record here. All right, so we're going to wrap up what we've been reading on the Jural assembly calls that are the 2nd and fourth Mondays of the month. For Jural Assembly, this evening we're wrapping up reading through Common Law Community Training Manual, establishing the reign of natural liberty, the common law, and its courts. Then we're going to run through again what the key officials are that are needed for the assembly, an update of Anna's articles for the week, and then obviously if we're able to have time with Joe, if he's able to make it to the call. Otherwise, we have a few things we can talk a minute or two about. I'll make sure I include as well, so we've got it now. So we don't forget, because sometimes things can happen. We don't know how technology, can mess things up. So we try to make sure that I include that when our adjourn date, so we're not falling into some form of sine die, that we're adjourning for April 15th for the next General Assembly, which is next week. And then April 22nd is the next Jural Assembly. And that's the picking up of this call here. All right. And those, again, are 6 p.m. Central. Now, there is a survey going out of trying to determine if there is a better day and time that everybody could be able to actually come to the calls and be on the calls where it actually works with your schedule, so we can actually get some work done here. And it helps if you actually answer that and give something you can actually work with. We have actually had people in the past that have put in, and we put in through a survey. We went ahead and then put it through the assembly for a vote to change the day and time of the assembly. And every one of the ones that voted for the day and time, none of them have showed up since they voted for it. So if you're going to vote for something, stand with it. Don't say that, yes, I'm agreeing to this, but then never show up again. All right. So, that's just a little game that's a childish game to play. All right. So here are some reminders for us to go through. And we're all, in a sense, coordinators, and that we're here to help figure out how we need to walk on the land, and how we can be able to communicate and educate others about walking on the land. And so we have this, it's our own personal mission, in a sense, so that we cannot fail. We're willing and able to do this work physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. We have resolve and determination. We walk the talk and work every day to bring the dejur into reality. We have excellent tools to complete our work. We set realistic and achievable goals. We learn and research constantly. We have a timeline. This year, there is no reason why it can't be this year. Ex parte Milligan occurred on Indiana. Indiana should be leading the way with getting the Jural Assembly up. However, Ohio's assembly has already put itself in for a request for a review from the Federation for stating that they have their assembly standing. So we wish them great luck on making sure that they can be able to work that through, and that they're doing the best that they can for Ohioans. We track our progress. We measure our strengths and weaknesses. We continually improve and revise accordingly, because we're on a path of course correction. And we conduct ourselves with peace and love. Now, that may not look like to some. Some may think, oh, you're hurting my feelings, you're being mean. No, it has nothing to do with feelings. It's just the evidence is facts. It is what it is. If you've taken it to where it's hurt your feelings, that's on you. It still doesn't change. It is what it is. So that's some of that thin skin that the United States have taught people to have, is a very thin skin. Whereas as Americans, we've actually have a spine, and we've thickened our skin so that we can have a stronger armor to stand up to their nonsense. Okay? You got to set aside those emotional roller coasters, because those are not the correct drivers to make anything of actual constructive progress occur. Then you've got to beware of infiltrators. We know that there are some that can be highly trained and well-paid operatives. They've shown us in the movies that they're willing to implant themselves to be Sally, the cashier at the local grocery store, for the last 3-5 years, or 10 or 15, to thoroughly embed them into the community so everybody will trust them and come and tell them all their dirty little secrets too. That's how they are. You've got to be willing, and it may even be your own aunt because she works at the BMV. She's out, she doesn't know that she's become a part of that whole trap of how they are using the BMV as part of that tracking system of their cattle property, right? Chattel property. Anyway, so you've got to be observant. You got to pay attention also to your inner instincts. If you feel a flag raising, you need to try and determine what that is. You've got to figure out, okay, is this something that could cause physical harm or property damage? Or is it something we can just be able to walk away from? And they can work out their issue however they need to work out. But you got to be able to start paying attention to those signals within you. This is all part of knowing who you are, because your body will tell you. All right. But then there's always signs that you can pay attention to from others that speak much louder than their words. So here are more tips. Here's a particular article that Anna wrote about that was specific modus operandi of what infiltrators have done. And not only the district infiltrators, but also those that are deeply indoctrinated. They truly believe that they're doing the right thing, even though it is not, because they feel that's their programming. That's how they've been raised. They've been rewarded all along for all that behavior. And so the main thing that's always the first thing they want to do is attack the leaders, the coordinators. She's mean. She doesn't like what I'm presenting, and I'm man on the land, but I'm supposed to be able to present this, but you don't even know what land and soil jurisdiction documents look like. You're quick to run to do something for the de facto, but it's the coordinator's fault when you're trying to bully your way in on the land, huh? But you're sure that the coordinators hurt your feelings, or they're doing something wrong because they're not letting you in, or it's complaining something about Anna. I've had many an email. I heard Anna is claiming up all of this and doing all this. And it's like, well, why don't you read the articles and that'll give you your information? I'm not your go-to to get all your answers for, especially if you're looking to find a problem. So then, of course, it's always attacking the paperwork, because they're sure they paid somebody on a completely other state to do their paperwork for them. You should just accept that I went to that one, and I don't need to show it to you. Just let me walk in the door and get started. That's not how this works. This is land and soil. We're fact and evidentiary based. You still have to present, and you certainly aren't going to be able to be presented for election to the assembly for an office and you've never presented a piece of paper of verifying who you are. We're very busy and we're all volunteers, but we're not overlooking processes just to be nice, right? That's not how this works. You can go right on over to a municipal or district assembly and they'll let you do that. They go by hearsay and I said so's all the time. So this continues with that article, but here is the link directly to it. All right, so here's the mission statement. You need to get to know this. It identifies the 7 purposes of the Indiana Assembly's mission that we're here to do. Our Indiana Assembly is dedicated to the restoration of a complete and fully operational land and soil jurisdiction, state and county court system serving the people of Indiana. That's number 1, getting the court system in play. This is part of this call right here. This is the Jural Assembly. This is about getting the court system in play. You got to show up. If you want courts that are actually going to be able to protect you and defend you, it's called by the people for a reason. The preservation of the national trust, the enforcement of the public law, the upholding of the federal constitution owed to our state and people, the repopulation of our land and soil jurisdiction, the filling of vacated public offices, and the reclamation of our material and intellectual public and private assets. To these ends, we, the living people of Indiana, have called the eligible Indiana nationals and citizen electors, that means they've presented that they are eligible, to assemble and to serve as jurors and officers. And we've established the process and procedure to qualify jurors and others competent to hold state citizenship and public office. We do this peacefully and without rancor in the exercise of our unincorporated powers and capacities. All right, just doing some checking. Okay. All right, outreach mission. Our mission is to help people understand who they are and why they were misidentified as U.S. citizens of the United States, and provide a solution by correcting their political status, joining the Indiana Assembly, including home county assembly, which is by default, you're already a member of your county assembly once you're a state assembly member. But then it's a matter of getting enough people on your county together to come together to be able to fill the roles and make it happen. And becoming actively involved in restoring the Republican form of government we are owed. We do this through a combination of consulting, facilitation, and training services that provide the optimal benefit of the future American. To assist future Americans, we offer a range of opportunities designed to live like an American. High-impact video conferencing, a turnkey political correction process, web-based libraries, local assembly meetings, state assembly meetings, continental marshal and deputy programs, state and county committees. And it's the committees where the actual work gets done. Each of the assemblies have committees that they have, but it all starts in the General Assembly, and all the work actually gets done through the committees. Then the General Assembly assigns the committees for their tasks that they're supposed to be doing. Then the committees then report back to the assemblies. And that's where those that decide to step up for the committees have to actually show up for the committees, have to actually bring forward something that they can do and provide and make happen. And then they have to follow through and commit with that and make that happen. And not just, again, like I said, never show up again. Value statements. We stand under the laws of nature. The laws of nature is God, the 10 Commandments, the Declaration of Independence. We accept the fiduciary responsibility of the Indiana Trust and operate under the prudent man standard, meaning we treat our state business as if it were our own business, but not for any personal gain. No personal gain. We keep the peace and uphold the public law. We report crime. We value each man and woman as a unique creation of our Creator and recognize them as a powerful co-creator. We willingly choose to self-govern and strive to show up as our best self in each and every experience. As your best self, right? Because we're making this not better. We saw what Build Back Better did, right? This is not about making it better. This is about bringing our best forward. We do not and we will not condone or participate in any form of insurrection, rebellion, or creation of armed services or armed forces other than the lawful state assembly militias operated as they are supposed to be operated within each state, and our land-based Continental Marshal Service, which is our jurisdictional interface with the U.S. Marshal Service. We perform under the treaties and constitutional agreements already established, and for supporting the restored American government, the reconstruction thereof, and will become responsible for the conduct of the restored Federation and Federal Republic. And again, it's of, by, and for the people. We're all in it for the of the people. We're all in it for the people. But everybody wants to forget that by the people. But we've seen what happens when you delegate it out to something else, right? Here are important Indiana documents. Here is the Assembly Affirmation of Purpose and Conduct for you to read it through, read it out loud, then if you still would like to present it to the assembly to be able to actively participate on committees, then you will autograph it with your bicolon and copyright symbol in blue ink with your thumbprint. Your full autograph, first, full, middle, and last name, not any different variations. Here is for you to fill out your contact information for the assembly. This is so that there's contact information for the General Assembly, Jural Assembly, and the Militia Assembly for various informations needed. All right, Indiana Assembly men and women points of order, so you know how to be able to conduct yourselves, because regardless of what you've seen from the de facto and how they handle themselves, we know that's wrong. No more platitudes. Okay, we're here to be honest with each other, be truthful, to bring forward real change for not just ourselves, but for the future. Assembly militia standards and principles. That is also now that was put together by the Federation so that for the peacekeeping task force to be able to ensure that the assembly militias are following those practices correctly. Because most would want to dive into immediately taking it from a perspective of though it's a National Guard perspective, and that is a very small piece of it, albeit a big one of protecting our own communities. That is a large part of it. However, it still isn't a large part of it in that the militia is the people, and we're here to be able to help each other within our community. We've got to learn how to be able to know how to know first aid, not be a EMT or anything, but you got to have some basic first aid skills, because you're going to be that first responder. We've got to have some emergency training for community training, so should there be a possible earthquake, how we can be able to step in and help each other, because we're our first responders. Why would we expect to wait for some de facto corporation that's lied every time when we know exactly what they'll do in situations? They block off the roads and they do not help. Here are links to more details about the different committees and that we work through the committees. And so that can give you more information about each one. So start looking through those. There's also, once you have presented your status correction, there's an email going out of listing the information about the committees and right now it's the list of General Assembly committees for those that have, again, presented at least the bare minimum, so they can start selecting which committee they want to start possibly working with and supporting. Standard operating procedures template, that is for the committees to be able to have a working plan to work on each project, so that there's actually a timeline and measurables, deliverables, so that it actually then can keep the business moving forward, keep it working forward. Here is a call to public office. Those are the different public offices that are elected offices, and more details about each of those roles that are needed to be filled. And then here's just a chart for the Indiana Assembly, so that we can start filling in those names once men and women start standing up and are elected into those roles by the General Assembly. Here is the reminder that it is your public duty to do this. So here are two articles. These are the two audio links, but if you wanted to go to the PDF of the article, it's search.onavonrights.com. And you can either put the article number or public duty in there and find it, or you can go to onavonrights.com and scroll down till you find those articles. All right, so we are owed the law of peace, and we're going to be doing that one after the ex parte. But that one is a lengthy one. That may have to be one that's a separate call to read through, because the law of peace is a pretty lengthy manual to read through, just like they have the law of war, a manual for the law of war. There's also the manual for law of peace for the law of nations. But it's there, a full PDF of it, so you can be able to read that yourself as well. This is the link to a PDF of the Common Law Community Training Manual, Establishing the Reign of Natural Liberty, the Common Law and its Courts, that we've been reading these past few weeks. And because once we've got people starting to fill roles, this helps us with the actual process of learning how to operate the courts from a common law perspective. Here are important articles from ANA that you need to make sure that you're aware of. You've got 3 choices. You can either claim your political status and join the state assembly for land and soil jurisdiction, or you can stay as you can be a territorial citizen and go to a territorial assembly, but you won't have the rights as an American, or you can go to a municipal assembly. Territorial assemblies are for those that want to reform and battle. And those that want the municipal assembly, they're the ones that want hand-holding and the cradle-to-grave environment. If you want to be an American, you stand on your own, you have your own armor, you can come over here to land and soil jurisdiction. But we're not here to play childish games. They do that in the municipal assembly. And then earlier on, we talked about the warning signs of district infiltrators. Here's the link to the full article. The American Way reminds everybody of the 3 choices and that and the types of behaviors that will not be tolerated. And then there's a public international alert for state assemblies. November 11th of this year, the plan is to go to Faith Monument here in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And here are 2 links by Kirk Cameron. One is a short TikTok explaining Faith Monument, and then the YouTube is the full documentary about it. Kirk Cameron is a devout Christian, and he goes through the history of Faith Monument that was actually created for our country. And here are communication links, but if you go to Linktree, you can get all the links in one place. Clout Hub, I'm still working with. It's only right now a chat thing. There's not, and you may be able to upload files, but there's no streaming functions like Telegram and stuff like that. So it's an added step right now to have to do an extra posting or video to Clout Hub. So that's going to probably take a little bit to get going on that. All right, here's a reminder of our 3 branches of government that are owed to us. This in the circle, this is the role that we, the people here, are supposed to be filling. All right, so we're all here for outreach and recruitment. We're here to spread the good news, right? To be able to share the truth, right? Help people understand and navigate the paperwork and record it. We help people join and participate in the assembly, either as state nationals or state citizens, explain the difference so they can see which group they belong in, which you will find an email in your main initial welcome email series that is coming through. It'll give you more information on the differences between a state national and state citizen. Set up, and then we go into setting up the 4 parts of the assembly. They're considered called the 4 pillars. You'll see that often. We have the General Assembly. Everything goes through the General Assembly. Then there's state national, state citizens. Everyone living on Indiana today are welcome and belong to the General Assembly. We have, even if they haven't presented paperwork, we have a process for the for the jury pool aspect that's called a talesman process. So those that didn't want to go through the paperwork and present their paperwork for whatever reason, they can go through that process. They'll still have to validate that they do live on Indiana to be able to be considered. They'll still have some questions whether they know anybody in the case and conflict of interest, that kind of stuff, But there are opportunities for those that haven't presented any paperwork to be able to still support on any and be able to still support. And then if you wanted to present paperwork and more deeper, you can get in to be able to help support. The International Business Assembly, which is also called the Business Assembly, is state citizens only. Only those that have canceled the contracts and have the ability to be able to speak on behalf of nationals from an international level. Everyone serves also, like I said, as a juror in the Jural Assembly. So even if they haven't turned in any paper, they can still support as a talesman through the jury pool, but they wouldn't obviously be able to support anywhere else within the General Assembly, like any offices, unless they've actually presented paperwork, because then they'd have to go through elections through the General Assembly for it. And then there's the Assembly Militia. That too is everyone currently living on Indiana, ages 21 to 45. And that means anyone, men and women, doesn't not anything particular, no particular gender, but both genders, with their only genders, just making that clear as Americans. And so anything that can be done, that if Terry on Washington State, she's the moderator with Anna on Anna's Monday night webinars. And Terry says she tells everyone there on Washington State, which she's also the coordinator for Washington State Assembly, that if you can pass a bottle of water, you can help support the militia. There's various levels of support that can be able to help with that. Here is a reminder that everything goes to the General Assembly. It has to start in the General Assembly, and everybody's a part of the General Assembly. All right, everything goes to the General Assembly. Even all the elections are held through the General Assembly, even for the different pillars. Everything goes through the General Assembly. Here again is more details about each of the pillars, the General Assembly and the Militia Assemblies. The General Assembly is a standing committee of the whole. Militia Assembly has its own standing committee of the whole as well, from a militia perspective, where the General Assembly standing committee of the whole is for the whole assembly. So the militia's standing committee of the whole is a subcommittee in that aspect. Here is a chart of the different offices that are currently within each of the pillars, within each assembly, as to what roles are needed to be filled. And these are election roles for some, and some can be appointed. But that way you have a chart. And here is a link if you wanted a PDF to download of it. I have not updated. I didn't get a chance to update through here. But March 27th, we welcomed home John on Carroll County, and we've also welcomed Wayne on Miami County since then. Here is a breakdown of how many on each county that are considered nationals, those that are considered citizens, those that are considered federal persons, and then in process. All the ones marked in green means that their county's been populated. At least one Indiana has presented paperwork on that county. Those in yellow, nobody has followed through with presenting, but they've at least spoken up and are interested in at least getting more information, coming to the calls, start learning about it. And this is still the numbers here, so I have a chance to update that. Yeah. All right. So reminder of prosperity card update from Anna. So you'll want to go to episode 23 of her podcast to give you tips and pointers, as well as an email has gone out with more information to support that. You're going to want to start finding vendors, start finding companies that you want to do business with, and see if they start asking around. Do they accept QR codes as a form of payment? They'll either look at you crazy or they'll know what you're talking about, but they may not have it there yet. Like I know this Walmart that we have here, it accepts the QR codes for payment only if they're an employee right now, because they have a whole payment system and everything. So right now, so we know that they're testing it with their employees to see how that goes before they open it up to customers. But that's coming. You can tell. But you'll want to start asking, even like your electric company, water company, gas company, start asking them, do you accept a QR code as a form of payment? So anyway, you'll have the email will start giving you tips on how to be able to work through that. My husband and I, our accounts, prosperity card accounts, were activated in February, and March and April we've got each of the disbursements. Once your accounts are approved, then they do disbursements into the account. Now it's a matter of right now, because it's American Federation dollars that are far more valuable than US dollars. So we're working out how to be able to move that money around. You're also going to want to, if you have a bank account, that you're going to want to see if they do international wire transfers. So some information for you to start preparing for that, so you can be able to start accessing that information. Which another thing, also a new option within the prosperity card, your profile area had a tool section so that you can create QR code pay links. So I've created one for me and my husband, but and right now the QR code only goes to where you can be able to log in on your mobile phone right now. So I'm not really sure how that part is supposed to work yet, because that there wasn't any messages in there about updating information on it yet, just that was in. So I'm a computer nerd to some extent, so I was already testing it out. But I test a lot of things out so that I can be able to do that walkthrough to be able to help others to try and troubleshoot it through it as well. But you'll get an email with information to start working through that. Also, check your address and location for where you lived at the time of voter registration through today. Sometimes they've been finding that people have been using addresses that are not their own to be able to go vote with. So check. All right, so calls to action. Ensure you're getting the assembly emails. If you have not done the most recent update that's through Zoho, you can't miss it. It's called Zoho, is the newsletter provider. If you haven't updated with that, then that's why you're not getting any emails from the assembly. So you can either go here, because I can't continue to email out to 500 people that aren't even opening their emails because they didn't actually follow through with confirming. And so they're dumped in spam. And then they don't go look in there. Or I've had many that say that I know they've opened them because they're replying to the email, but it's that they did it through a preview aspect. And so technically, it's showing that the email wasn't actually opened, even though it was. So it's it's called tech warfare. So you have to be on it to be able to follow through with upholding. Yes, I do want this. I don't want it going into spam. I do want these emails, but then follow through and read them. But also take note, it took me at least 3 or 4 other emails afterwards, even though I literally each time I had to still go tell it to not spam and then go back into the inbox to be able to open it to read the email. So get in the habit. You might as well just get in the habit of checking your spam, junk, promotion folders each time. That way, if it is something you want, put a report not spam, and keep pushing it back to your inbox. But then also, once you're done looking through those folders, delete everything else in that moment so that you won't mix anything up. Because they will pop in ones that have crazy, like for Cash App and PayPal, that it's like funky spelling for Cash App or PayPal, but they also have all these different little emojis and stuff within the subject that can get all lost within that if you don't keep it cleared out, it'll easily get lost in between those. So this is part of being self-governing, even with your own mail, right? All right, we're seeking ASN and ASC assembly members to step up to voluntarily support the vetting committee so that we can start bringing people onto the other committees and start presenting people for elections into roles. Also seeking ASNs and AFCs to volunteer tech support with the video platforms to help ensure that all recordings include appropriate verbiage, credits, links, and that such. Helping with the technology of making sure that the calls are being received, and if there's tech issues, what's what. I literally am just barely, I have enough tech skills that have kept this going. But there's so much more that it can be able to do, to be able to help the assembly. So those out there, if you've got those skills, please, we all need to share in our skills, right? But again, it's by the people, and we're volunteers, and until the assembly is receiving regular, consistent funds coming in from the people in Indiana, and then the assembly has to then vote to decide if there's going to be any roles with salaries, and if so, then they also have to vote and then follow through with funding and making sure that those salaries are met, right? Because we don't have employers out there being strong arms for the IRS to steal the money to be able to use it. So either you're giving it or it's not coming in, right? So we're all volunteers here. ASNs and ASCs, an email has been sent out for your vote on 2 public laws. It's going to go out one more week. And if you have your opportunity to be able to respond, it's going with the unanimous decision once that's moved forward. Since this assembly doesn't have a General Assembly Chair Pro Tem yet, the state coordinator is able to autograph on this to move this forward for this aspect. Information to share, and the 2 public laws, and this, once again, when you present your status correction, bare minimum of status correction paperwork, then you'll be able to vote on these as well. The first one, Public Law A 1010124, claims all our stuff back and authorizes extraterritorial force and administrative expenses. And Public Law A 1010224 removes any purported immunities. Information to share with attorneys, doctors, and all also includes the sole survivorship template is within this folder. The Federation has also put out an updated where it's the full explanation for attorneys, and I have popped that in there as well. And that starts out with it has a number at the front, like 502 point something, to know that that's the updated one for it. So here's information that you can be able to send. You can either start sharing it out, just to start getting. We need people to start sharing it to get the word out. But of course, then those that have status corrected would be using it if they were within these issues here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and finish the reading for Common Law Community Training Manual, Establishing a Reign of Natural Liberty, the Common Law and its Courts. Again, here was the link to the PDF. And so let me go ahead and get things switched, checking everything here. Okay, so I have it I have everything screen sharing to Rumble, so I should be able to just do it in the stop screen sharing Rumble a second. Let me drop that down and I'll just play the videos straight out of here. Because I had it uploaded into free conference call, but I think everything's really, of course, no, it's got to go through. I think it's going to be heard better through free conference. Let me do it through free conference call. Okay. Again, technology. See, these would be things that that those with more tech skill than I would be able to do. All right, let's see how we get this. Okay, so good. It's showing through Telegram, but not on Rumble yet. Let me get the screen share for Rumble. Let's see.
Greetings, this is Christine Mantel, State Coordinator, Lead Recording Secretary for Indiana City in Indiana. And we are continuing with Common Law Community Training Manual, establishing the reign of natural liberty, the common law, and its core community training manual. Now, we finished up last week on page 18, starting with citizens arrest, and we're going to go ahead and about on citizens arrest, the right and necessity of citizens to detain suspected or actual criminals has long been recognized and was mentioned under a recent law in Canada, the Citizens Arrest and Self-Defense Act of 2012. The right of citizens to perform arrests and detain suspects on their own has been broadened to include not only people by endangering the community or harming others, but anyone suspected of crimes, including known offenders. Under the same common law custom of proto posse suo, the above, that empowers any group of adults to unite and stop those causing harm, the right of citizens arrest is not restricted or negated by a higher authority because of the recognition that any man or woman has the competence and obligation to see and directly halt wrongdoing in their community. The procedure for performing a citizen's arrest is as follows. 1. One must first either witness a crime or recognize a suspected crime or known offender, or even have a reasonable suspicion that such person pose a danger to others. Such a suspicion must be based on probable cause and not simply a feeling or prejudice about someone. 2. One must then inform the suspect or offender that he or she is being placed under citizen's arrest under the right of necessity to defend, which obligates the arrestor to detain the suspect or offender. The arrestor must state who they are and why they are exercising the power of arrest by stating the cause of action. 3. The offender or suspect must then be detained and held for trial in a common law court. If they turn out to have committed a crime or pose a danger to others, the amount of force used in the arrest must be a reasonable response to the suspect's behavior. Citizens can normally hand over those they have detained to an authorized common law peace officer or a sheriff of the court. The arresters must be willing to appear in court and give sworn testimony concerning their actions. The crucial importance of the power of citizens arrest is that it trains and empowers citizens to take responsibility for policing their communities and for the law itself. It moves democracy from theory to action. Broader consequences of the common law court, a world made new. Our first real step towards independence from England was the establishment of our own Republican courts, right under the nose of the Brits. We set up a different legal system of our traditional Brehon laws, even while under military occupation. And we had to defend that system in arms. So you can say that once we started living under our own laws, everything else had to follow, right up to becoming a new nation. From Joe McInnes, Republican veteran of the Irish Civil War, 1974 interview. For what you call the law is but a club of the rich over the lowest of men, sanctifying the conquest of the earth by a few and making their theft the way of things. But over and above these pitiful statutes of yours that enclose the common land and reduce us to poverty to make you fat, stands the law of creation, which renders judgment on rich and poor alike, making them one. For freedom is the man who will thus turn the world upside down, therefore no wonder he has enemies. Gerald Winstanley, The True Leveler's Standard, Surrey, England, 1649. For the people themselves to sit in judgment of historically untouchable rulers like popes and heads of states and to render an enforceable verdict on their crimes is a revolutionary act. And such a revolution has begun with the February 25th, 2013 verdict of the International Common Law Court of Justice. We cannot shrink from or deny the profound consequences of taking such a necessary historic step. Rather, we must recognize that the new judicial system in our hands is, in fact, a doorway to a transformed world, in which the land and its wealth and society as a whole is reclaimed by all people and brought into harmony with natural justice through a great social leveling. Many traditions and prophecies foresee such a time as now as a judgment upon the corruption and injustice of the human world. Biblically, such a moment was known as the Jubilee, when all human laws and divisions were abolished in society, like nature during a fallow year is allowed to rest from warfare, corruption, and injustice. In truth, we recognize this historic moment not only as a condemnation of what has been, but primarily as a transformation into what is coming to be. A reinventing of humanity according to the simple principle that no law or authority shall ever cause anyone to rule, harm, or dominate others. The aim of common law is to reestablish direct relations of mutual aid among people by placing justice and the law within their reach again. And that devolution of power will simultaneously disestablish all hierarchical institutions of state, business, and church, which control and mediate human life as a power over people. A process so profound and revolutionary can only be enacted from the grassroots by many people who have relearned freedom and use it to take action in their own communities, to govern themselves as their own judge, jury, and police. On the basis of this good renewed soil, a great harvest will one day arise in the form of a new and local republics of equals in harmony with itself and all creation. The common law is a catalyst and a means towards achieving this political and spiritual end. For now, as we struggle to give birth to the courts that are like a great plow breaking open the dead soil of the status quo, we must never forget that much of what we have been taught will betray us. For we have been raised as slaves to think and operate under laws and serve the few. Everything must be rethought and retried according to the two great principles of natural law. All things are placed in common for the good of all, and therefore the law shall cause harm to no one. Our principles are firm, but our methods and tactics are subtle. We must audaciously try ever new ways to expose, indict, and stop the criminal institutions and corporations that are killing our planet, our children, and our sacred liberty. And together we must learn from every mistake and defeat and generalize the victories and wisdom we gain into clear precedent throughout this long redemptive struggle that will span many lifetimes. The consequence born to us is our lamp during this journey and our best instructor, as is our great heritage of natural law and reason, passed down to us so that a free and independent humanity may never perish from the earth. Armed with this truth, this knowledge, and this sacred purpose, go forth and take action. You have a world to win back. The law is the public conscience, and the common law is the common reason. Sir Edward Coke, 1622. All right, Appendix A, Sources and Resources, Bovier's Law Dictionary by John Bovier, 1856, Legal Maxims by Broom and Bovier, 1856, A Dictionary of Law by William C. Anderson, 1893, Black's Law Dictionary by Henry Campbell Black, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th editions, 1933 to 1990, Maxims of Law by Charles A. Weissman, 1990. See also O.W. Holmes, The Common Law, 1881, new edition by M. DeWolf Howe, 1963, reprint, 1968. T.F. Plucknett, Concise History of the Common Law, 5th edition, 1956. H. Potter, Historical Introduction to English Law and its Institutions, 4th edition, 1958. A.R. Hogue, Origins of the Common Law, 1966. R.C. Van Kenegum, The Birth of the English Common Law, 1973. J.H. Baker, The Legal Profession and the Common Law, 1986. R.L. Abel and P.S.C. Lewis edition, The Common Law World, 1988. Further publications of aspects of the International Common Law Court of Justice and its procedures and principles will be forthcoming, issued by the ICLCJ Legal Advisory Board. B. Examples of common law court documents. 1. Notice of claim of right, to be publicly issued in order to convene a local common law court. Public notice of claim of right, issued by blank on blank in the community of blank. I blank give public notice of my personal claim of right and lawful excuse to convene and establish a common law court under my liberty as a flesh and blood man or woman, and I do hereby call upon the support of all competent men and women to assist me in this lawful right. I further give public notice of my personal claim of right and of lawful excuse to convene and establish as part of such a court of jury of my peers, consisting of 12 men or women, to judge a matter affecting the well-being, rights, and safety of myself and my community, that matter being the following. And then give a description of the issue, statement of claim, party's name. I further give public notice that the said jury of my peers claims the jurisdictional competence to judge this matter and issue a sentence and verdict within the said common law court established to render such a judgment based upon proven and irrefutable evidence presented within this court. I hereby publicly call upon the request and support of my community to establish this common law court and its jury of 12 men or women to be sworn to act in such a capacity for the duration of the court proceedings according to natural law and the rules of evidence and due process. I make this public claim of right freely without coercion or ulterior motive in the interest of justice and the public welfare. Claimant, witness, and date. 2. Deputizing notice issued by court sheriff to other police officers. Notice of warrant, court of justice in the jurisdiction of natural law and the law of nations. To all peace officers and law or statute enforcement officials, this public notice is issued to you as a lawful warrant by the common law court of justice, placing you under the jurisdiction of the court and natural justice and deputizing you as its officers. Upon your taking the appended oath of common law court office below, you are empowered to act as the lawful agents of prosecutor or protectors of the court in its proceedings, and to serve and enforce its writs, warrants, summons, and court orders on any and all persons and corporations named by the court. If you choose not to take this oath of office, you are compelled and ordered by the court and by natural law to refrain from interfering with the actions of other officers so deputized and empowered to act for the court. If you resist, disrupt, or impede the actions of the court or its officers, you can and will be charged with criminal assault and obstruction of justice, issued on blank in the community of blank by the following legal agent or sworn peace officer or sheriff of the Commonwealth Court of Justice. Signed and stamped by the court. It may need to be a following lawful agent or sworn peace officer for our terminology. Oath of common law court office to be issued to any sworn agent of the court or to all persons or law enforcement officers deputized by the court or its sheriffs. I, blank, being of sound mind and clear conscience, do hereby swear that I will faithfully and justly execute the office of an agent of the common law court of justice according to the best of my ability. I like that. Come up with I, Christine Michelle Van Pelt, being of sound mind and clear conscience, do hereby swear that I will faithfully and justly execute the office of an agent of the common law court of justice according to the best of my abilities. I understand that if I fail in my duties or betray the trust and responsibilities of my office, I will forfeit my right to this position and can be dismissed. I take this solemn oath freely without coercion, reservation, or ulterior motive, according to my conscience as a free man or woman, free as a free woman, and as a citizen under the authority and jurisdiction of the common law. Signed, date, and court stamp. 3. Documents in the first case of the International Common Law Court of Justice, docket number 022513-001, in the matter of the People versus Joseph Ratzinger, Elizabeth Windsor et al., genocide in Canada. See attached hard copy documents and here's the link, itccs.org. C. Strategy and tactics. 40 key lessons from Sun Tzu. 1. Skilled in battle summons others and is not summoned by them. One skilled at moving an enemy forms and the enemy must follow. Officers and the enemy must take. Form the ground of battle before engaging an enemy on terms favorable to you. Then shape the ground to deceive the enemy with actions that fit the enemy's own mind and action. Thus, you form victory before battle by standing on the ground of no defeat. Victory is not achieved by the physical destruction of an enemy, but by their demoralization, which is accomplished by maneuver. Do not repeat successful maneuvers with the same enemy, or they will recover and adapt to your tactics. War is only a means to a political end, not an end in itself. Knowing the enemy and knowing yourself in every battle, no danger. Not knowing the enemy and knowing yourself, one defeat for every victory. Not knowing the enemy and not knowing yourself in every battle, certain defeat. Defend and one is insufficient. Attack and one has a surplus. The victorious army is first victorious and then does battle. The defeated army first does battle and after that seeks victory. It is the nature of warfare that swiftness rules. Everything will be won and swift action at the right moment or lost without it. Only fight an enemy if a position is critical. Only move if there is something to gain. Do not respond to the ground your enemy has prepared you for you, but instead shape their ground. Then they have no alternative but to be led by you as if it were their own idea. This is skill. Hide the time of battle from an enemy and make what he loves and defends your first objective. When near, manifest far. When able, manifest inability, so as to confuse them. Let your plans be as dark as night and strike like a thunderbolt with utter surprise. Prior to such a surprise attack, feign weakness and offer the enemy a truce to lull his defenses. The unexpected attack always negates the superior strength of any enemy. If I do not wish to do battle, I mark a line on the earth to defend it. and the enemy cannot do battle with me. I misdirect him. Respond to aggression by creating space so as to control the actions of the aggressor. Resist and you will swell the attacker. Create room for the aggressor and he will dissipate. 16. When I am few and the enemy is many, I can use the few to strike the many because those whom I battle are restricted. 17. Use order to await chaos. Use stillness to await clamor. At the right moment, not acting as the most skillful action. This is ordering the heart-mind. 18. It is not necessary to exercise your strength. Instead, rest in your sufficiency. 19. Every stage commander acts from his own ground of strength, which is formed solely by the completeness of his being. He accepts his nature and remains himself, which brings the power to discern clearly. The clarity and the will of the commander forms the ground of his entire army, and clarity comes from an honest and humble heart. 20. The commander must never issue ambiguous orders. 21. The victorious commander does not win victory by conquering an opponent, but by creating the larger view that includes both sides. Outthink, do not outfight your enemy. 22. Always carefully discern the enemy's purpose. True knowledge of the enemy comes from active contact. Provoke them to reveal themselves, assessing their nature and responses. Prick them and know their movements. Probe them and know their strength and deficiencies. 23. An enemy can be subdued without battle once you understand the relationship and combination of things that constitutes its power. This skill of understanding exceeds 100 victorious in battle. 24. Power is found not in solid things, but in the constant flow of relationships, which are never still. The power of a squirrel to cross a river on a log lies neither in the squirrel nor the log, but in their momentary combination. That combination is its power. 25. To employ the skill of understanding and employ in an enemy's power, one must be formless, like water. The water moves from high to low. Your army's movements are determined fluidly according to the state of your enemy. Thus is your power not fixed, and it is without permanent form to reflect and capture the power of your enemy. 26. Never reinforce error or defeat, but let your understanding move fluidly with each new experience. There is never a final or definitive outcome to the army that moves like water. 27. Being without permanent form and fluid in your movements and tactics, you compel your enemy to defend against you at every point. He is thereby dissipated and weakened, and kept ignorant of your purpose while forced to reveal his condition to you. By this means of formlessness, you can form the strongest enemy to the ground you have chosen for it on the terms of your victory. But without foreknowledge of the ground itself, none of this is possible. 29. Hostile ground heightens your focus. Cut off from home support, you can take nourishment from the enemy. Such supply lines cannot be severed. Use the threat surrounding you to stay united and sustain your army. United we stand, divided we fall, right? But they want to try and divide as much as possible because it's easier to separate and pick you off one by one rather than together. That's fine. All right, back to the reading. 30. Place your soldiers where they cannot leave. Facing death, they find their true strength and cannot be routed. When they cannot leave, they stand firm and fight. 31. Extreme situations cause your troops to respond from profound sources of inner power. Training and commands cannot accomplish this. Dire circumstances automatically evoke it, unsought yet attained. The right relationships unleash enormous power greater than the individual parts. 32. If an enemy occupies high ground, do not engage him. If he attacks from high ground, do not oppose him. 33, if a mightier enemy pauses, though enjoying an advantage, they are tired. If divisions appear in their ranks, they are frightened. If their commander repeatedly speaks soothing reassurances to his army, he has lost his power. Many punishments indicate panic. Many bribes and rewards mean the enemy is seeking retreat. 34, bind your own army to you with deeds. Do not command them with words. 35, engage an enemy with what they expect, so that what you allow them to see confirms their own projections. This settles them into predictable patterns of response, distracting them from your actions while you wait calmly for the extraordinary moment, that which they cannot anticipate or prepare for. Use the extraordinary to win victory. 36, be in this manner invisible and unfathomable to your enemy. To be thus without form, first be so orthodox that nothing remains to give you away. Then be so extraordinary that no one can predict your action or purpose. 37, thus in battle, use a direct attack to engage and an indirect attack to win. 38, ride the inadequacies of your enemy. Go by unpredicted ways. Attack your enemy where your enemy has not taken precautions and avoid where they have. 39, do not confront the enemy in their strength, but at the points of their weaknesses. Seize something the enemy holds dear. Their strength is then rendered useless. They must stop to listen and respond. Likewise, whatever you love makes you vulnerable. Prepare yourself to relinquish it. 40. Being thus prepared and awaiting the unprepared is victory. Thus it is said, victory can be known, it cannot be made. In summary, know your enemy and know yourself. Subdue the enemy without fighting. Avoid what is strong, attack what is weak. Those three great principles are tied together like braided strands of hair. There is but one law for all, namely that law which governs all law, the law of our Creator, the law of humanity, justice, and equity. That is the law of nature and of nations. Edmund Burke, 1780. For hard copies of the Common Law Court Manual, you can either email or donations through itccs.org. Copyright for this manual is held by the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State in Brussels. Permission is granted to reproduce, use, and quote from this manual in whole or in part for strictly non-commercial purposes. All right. And so that's 2013. So that completes the reading of going through of the Common Law Community Training Manual, establishing the reign of natural liberty, the common law and its courts, a community training manual issued by the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State in Brussels. Thank you, and peace of mind.
All right, so now let's get back to our agenda here. Let me move this over. Let's see. All right, so that's this one. This, we've got to go to this. Okay. Then we should have, what's Telegram seeing? Okay, Telegram is seeing it as well. Okay. Get all the technology back. Okay, so the next Jural Assembly call, which will be in 2 weeks here, will be reading Ex parte Milligan. Okay? Might as well start reading it. All right, then the rest of the presentation agenda is going through more details about the Jural Assembly. You can read through that. It identifies specific articles by Anna that goes into more detail. You can read the full articles by going to search annavonrights.com, putting the article number in or the title in. or you can go to annavonrights.com and scroll to it's in chronological order. Again, here is more information about the Jural Assembly and our American courts. We have state grand jury and trial courts. Then there are the state grand jury and trial courts. And then there's the postal area grand jury and trial courts. You can read more through that. Eligible. All state nationals and state citizens are members of the jury pool and are part of the Jural Assembly. State nationals and state citizens are both eligible to decide cases involving in-state issues, while state citizens alone can hear cases involving international subject matter. And so that it goes through the different offices that are within the Jural Assembly. And gives a little bit more detail for each of those. Earlier on, there was a link to the call to office that also goes into more details of the different offices. So you can see each of the different roles. Obviously, the ones that are going to have more work to do, right? You'll see that there is more details. So of course, your court within the assembly, and then of course the sheriffs are also housed within the Jural Assembly. So you can read through all of that, and it goes into more details about the qualities of a sheriff. Then here are the committees that are for the Jural Assembly. So as we start working with getting the General Assembly, we can also start getting to the Jural Assembly committees. Again, here's a little handy chart of who is in the jury pool. All American state nationals, American state citizens are automatically a part of the jury pool. Anyone in the jury pool may be contacted and asked to participate in a jury. The jury is selected through a vetting process. At the time of trial, questions appropriate for that particular trial would be asked in order to determine if there is a conflict of interest that would disqualify someone from participating on the jury. A jury of peers is chosen by the jury pool committee. So hence there's a jury pool committee that will be needed, right? While actively serving on a jury, a juror maintains a temporary American state citizen status. Those who cannot serve on a jury include court officers presiding over or assisting with the court proceedings, such as justice, court clerk, bondsman, jural secretary, or nationals or citizens involved in the case itself or having conflicting interests, such as being related to someone in the case or being a witness in the case. That doesn't mean they can't be called for another one. But if that, if you have a conflict of interest in that one, then you're not going to be able to support the jury in that one, but still able to in others. And then here is more information for the Assembly Militia, which also goes in line with the sheriffs as well, to be able to support that. But the sheriffs are also considered peacekeepers at that point as well. So here's more information to go through supporting that. Communication is key. Being able to connect with other fellow Americans in times of emergency or disaster is critical. The militia might also assume responsibility for this. Things like ham radios or satellite phones and the training on how to use them can prove extremely useful. So anyone that has experience with that, speak up and start sharing the information. We have a lot of people that tell, well, I can do this and I've had this experience and that experience and it's okay. Well, help us, show us. Then they're gone. It's like, well, isn't you're supposed to be able to share the knowledge as well, right? As well, that's why it's also important to make sure that you're getting the assembly emails so that you can also be able to get information from the militia. That's why you're also turning in the contact information card, because in that way it'll be able to help you with, so we can, if needed to be to connect with, it can. Then there's the Militia Standing Committee of the Whole. Goes into more detail about that and who are eligible, because it's everyone is on the militia. And then it goes into more detail of the different that a militia coordinator will be needed in committees. Right now, here are the state level officers, ASN and ASCs, that we are seeking that need to be filled, and whether you can be a national or a citizen. Right now, we're looking for a chairman pro tem that's a speaker or spokesman for the assembly, not any kind of CEO, but actually listens to what the assembly has and is that speaker for the assembly. Once a chairman pro tem is in place, then I won't have to do these calls because the chairman, or at least for the General Assembly, because we'll have a General Assembly chairman as well as a Jural Assembly chairman. So once those roles are filled, then they'll be leading these calls for the assembly calls as opposed to myself, because they're going to be more involved in keeping that together. Just like the secretary pro tem is not like a recording secretary. The secretary pro tem here is the one then that will be putting the agendas together that I put together, and we'll be sending out the emails that share the agenda information and things like that. So that's an important role there. Those that are wanting to put information onto the agenda will be connecting with that secretary. The secretary will be maintaining all of that information. Then also the state marshal at arms is what is needed highly. Those three are key ones that are needed to start getting filled with the General Assembly right away. Again, here's the link for the different assembly offices and the call to public office for what the different roles are. Here's this honest articles for this past week. I've highlighted important ones to go ahead and read to be able to help support you. And they have the links there to be able to go to. Here's a compilation of honest articles that are relative to legal cases involving money. So you have them in one place. And earlier on, I had a link that had for information to attorneys and things like that. Well, that is here with the sole survivor template. And that's the folder that has everything within it. All right. So I don't think Joe is able to make it to the call. So here is a map of our lovely state of Indiana, right? Our beautiful, lovely state of Indiana. Okay, so there is a line here, and all those counties above and the ones that the line goes through, from what I could gather from the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol map, Customs and Border Control maintain the border for 100 air miles of the border, and that goes into that far down into Indiana. It covers all of Michigan, but this far down into Indiana. Okay, and this is where Customs and Border Control are letting illegal immigrants through, but yet harassing actual people that live here. So we're looking for if the current sheriff seems like he or she is constitutional and would be at least open to hearing, let's connect them to Joe, our peacekeeper executive director, to be able to contact them directly and see what we can do to be able to help bring them forward to support with border control stuff. If the sheriff is not constitutional in any way, shape, or form, totally bought and paid for by the corporation, then we need an American to stand up on that county as sheriff. And so then we can then be able to connect you with Joe to be able to get the proper training as sheriff for the county, as well as to be able to help support from the Customs Border Patrol aspect. Also, one assembly liaison is needed to be from each assembly to be able to meet with the peacekeepers. Oh, and I have a typo there. I put a PKTK instead of PKTF. It's PKTF. My pardon. I just noticed it. One assembly liaison. Now, but that also means you have to actually attend the assembly calls as well as meet with the peacekeepers, and then you're sharing information back and forth. What you learn from the peacekeepers, you're supposed to present with the assembly. Now, we had someone that stepped up and reached out that wanted to be that, to at least get more information about being an assembly liaison, but still hasn't been to an assembly call in several weeks, if not months. Okay, so you've got to be able, it's not about getting that foot in the door to be able to deal with directly with the peacekeepers. It's about, you have to actually then follow through with sharing that information with the assembly. All right. The announced on the 3rd of 2023 that the first generation of beds are available that use sound healing techniques. Here is information about it, as well as here is their contact mailing address, their phone number, and down here at the bottom is their website. If you're interested in supporting bringing med beds here on Indiana, here is a link over here on the right that you can donate directly to help support to bring that forward. Here's a lot of the links for the assembly listed here. A reminder that all gifts are welcome. They're non-refundable and all benefits are waived. Gifts are even considered for products and services. Because even, some things I'm able to work through, but for the most part, it's non-refundable. But because all benefits are waived. That's why you have to also be more cautious as to what you're selecting before moving forward. Okay, but if you go to Linktree right here to the Linktree, it'll give all the links of everything, including Federation links that are valuable links that you can bookmark or at least go there as your main place to go back and forth. Like it has the link to Search Audubon Rights, the TASA site, the 50 state site, Peacekeeper Task Force information, the podcast where the free conference call recordings feed to and things like that. So there's a lot of links available there. All right, so that is the end of our call for this evening, and we want to make sure that you still are focusing on spending time with your family, being as positive as you can, but as well as it's time to also get to work so that you can help to support making Indiana one of the best states in America, right? And obviously to make it a better place than when we came in. The rest of the slides in here are information for you to help keep working through, to help you remind so that you can have them at your fingertips. A lot of them are great one-pagers to print out that are great study tools for when you're offline and need something to do. They're great study tools, as well as they're great conversation starters to be able to, because somebody will see you're reading that instead of on your cell phone. Well, what are you reading? Well, here's a great tool and you can read it right directly, right? So you don't have to go off script as to what is on there, right? So great tools. So I want to thank you all. I will make sure that I have Johnny from Hendricks County in the agenda for us. And it's going to be a little bit later this evening before I can get the agenda into that folder, but it'll be there as well as the past ones we've been doing on Rumble. So just as a reminder, the next General Assembly call is next week, the 15th, and then the following week on the 22nd is the Jural Assembly. Both are 6 p.m. East or 6 p.m. Central. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to join us this evening. I hope you all had a wonderful day and was able to spend time with your family. Oh, it doesn't want to work on that at this point. Okay. And so keep that focus in making sure to also to bring God back into the picture, God into everything, because without God, there is no liberty. We know this, right? All right. I wish you all peace and love, and I will see you on the next call. Have a great night. Thank you.